This is QTV News coming to you from our studios on Karaba Avenue. I am Amudu Gajaga and thank you for joining us. First, here are the main news headlines. Following the death last week of a 9-year-old girl due to suspected electrocution, the National Water and Electricity Company NAWEC have urged the public to report any abnormality or fault they observe with their electricity wires and poles. At a media briefing on Tuesday, the UNFPA and partners have revealed that there were 310 reported cases of gender-based violence in the Gambia from January to July 2023. The Minister of Interior, Siaka Sonko, has called on stakeholders to strengthen collaboration to ensure the successful implementation of the Biological Weapons Convention. At the Monetary Policies Committee's quarterly meeting, the Governor of the Central Bank reported accelerating inflation beyond a tolerable level in the Gambia. And in international news, following a ban on headscarves in France's public schools, the country will also be banning the wearing of a abaya robe worn by some Muslim girls in state-run schools. Those were the news headlines, and now the news in detail. Welcome and thank you for joining us. This is QTV News. Following the death last week of a 9-year-old girl due to suspected electrocution, the National Water and Electricity Company NAWEC have urged the public to report any abnormality or fault they observe with their electricity wires and poles, especially during the rainy season. QTV's Julden Jai spoke to the Communications and Public Relations Officer of the company of NAWEC, and this is her report.
The coming of the rainy season is a blessing to many, especially those involved in agriculture. However, it sometimes comes with dangers such as flooding, strong winds, and even loss of lives, households, and livelihoods. In the Gambia, there are reports sometimes of people being electrocuted, especially during the rainy season. The most recent incident occurred last week in Tranquil in the West Coast region. A 9-year-old girl was accidentally electrocuted after she allegedly touched a live electricity pole in a compound she visited. Buba Baji, Communication and Public Relations Supervisor at NAWEC, explains what apparently led to the young girl's death.
And this happened because NAWEC was not contacted in time. The only time we were contacted when the accident had already happened, life is already lost. Our team went there only to find out that a particular landlord have his service pole damaged. It's already damaged. Instead of replacing the service pole, which would not cost more than $3,000 maximum, he went and took the cable and hung it to a gumtail cable, tie it with a binding wire. After some time, the storm air here and there, it scraped. And it added the gumtail cable. Gumtail did not add their cable because it's not transmitting electricity. So that innocent child went and held that pole and died. So somebody who wouldn't understand will say, okay, it's NAWEC's responsibility. No, our supply pole was not touched and that one was not even added.
Mr. Baji further explains some of the safety precautions implemented by NAWEC during the rainy season.
Whenever the rains are approaching, first what we do is we do trimming, vegetation, you can call it, but at the simple term, we'll say trimming, means cutting tree branches that are very close to our network, especially on the high tension and the MV lines, that is the medium voltage and the low voltage lines. These exercises are normally done to avoid tree branches failing on our network lines, which can cause electric shocks, which can cause damage to both our network and then the infrastructure.
Mr. Baji also advised people to report to NAWEC immediately they observe any irregularities with NAWEC's services or service poles.
If we erect, before we install any customer or connect any customer, we do an earthing. We do earthing, that is, in case of any electrical misbehave, the earth is grounded, then means it's not going to shock anybody. You can touch the pole freely.
Furthermore, NAWEC's Communication and Public Relations Supervisor clarifies what sometimes causes delays in their response to incidents.
Now, sometimes you call NAWEC and said, we have a spark on the pole at Kutu, when already they had a complaint of a spark at Manjai. Right? So they rush to fix that one. The downtime coming could be delayed. That's very possible.
Health and safety experts have said that the public should take certain precautions to avoid electrocutions during the rainy season. For QTV News, I am Julden Yai.
At a media briefing on Tuesday, the UNFPA and partners have revealed that there were 310 reported cases of gender-based violence in the Gambia from January to July 2023. Loli M. Camara has more.
The Gender-Based Violence GBV report was compiled at the Gender Information Management System GMIS Orange Salter at Bakote, having been collected from the 8 operational one-stop centers in the country in Kanifing, Banjul, the Orange Salter Bakote, Bundum, Brikama, Basse, Bansang and Buyam. The United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, in collaboration with the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, the International Trade Center, and the United Nations Development Program and UNICEF, jointly established the GMIS Orange Shelter in Bakote in January this year. The aim is to have a strong evidence base on gender-based violence and to promote a safe, confidential, and convenient way to report gender-based violence. Dairo Sar is the UNFPA country rep.
100% of these GBV survivors have received medical attention and were appropriately referred and received the necessary medical care. 99.6% of these survivors who reported to a one-stop center received psychosocial support and counseling. Unfortunately, 98% of survivors are female. 35% of all cases reported involved children under the age of 14, and these cases were reported by adults.
Fatou Kinte, the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, said having the GMIS free call center is a step closer to tackling cases of GBV in the Gambia. She added that although much is being done on sensitization and advocacy, a lot more needs to be done.
As we all know, gender-based violence is a socially challenging problem with infrastructural assistance deficits to address it. The first issue of the problem is service availability for the survivors. On one hand, there is limited GBV specific case services in most regions, while on the other hand, most survivors have challenges in accessing the limited support around them. We are working with the UN system to make sure that this is really functional out here in the Greater Banjul area. But we are looking for funding elsewhere to make sure that we have similar services across the regions, because not everybody can come over here.
Palu So from the Network Against Gender-Based Violence and Dr. Dasta Turini, the WHO country representative, both spoke on the need for and importance of the data collected. Ramu Sonko, the program analyst for gender and GBV at UNFPA, revealed that since the launch of the GMIS Center, the highest number of cases received was in May 2023, with the Greater Banjul area reporting the most cases. Rape, sexual assault, and physical assault represent the most commonly reported GBV cases. And going by the data, adolescents aged 10 to 14 years are most at risk of being raped in the Gambia. The report also highlights that 50% of GBV perpetrators are between the ages of 20 to 35. For QTV News, Loli M. Kamara.
The Minister of Interior, Siaka Sonko, has called on stakeholders in the country to strengthen collaboration to ensure the successful implementation of the Biological Weapons Convention. He was speaking at a 2-day stakeholders forum on the national implementation of the Biological Weapons Convention in the Gambia. Ansumana Esomayasi has more.
The use of biological weapons was banned in the aftermath of World War I and reinforced in 1972 and 1993. The global ban includes prohibiting their development, stockpiling and transfer. And in a move to ensure effectiveness of the ban, many countries all over the world, including the Gambia, assented to the convention with the exception of some countries yet to ratify the treaty. Speaking at the 2 days national stakeholder convergence on the implementation of the convention in the Gambia, Interior Minister Siaka Sonko says understanding the impact of biological weapons can have a significant effect on global peace and stability. And he calls on stakeholders to collaborate, especially in tackling the effects of the biotech industry, adding that strengthening the biological disarmament regime is important for global stability.
I want to reaffirm the government of the Gambia's commitment to BWC to create a world free of biological weapons. The Gambia does not have chemical weapons or biological weapons, but will continue to work with all member states of this convention to support global efforts in combating the use of biological weapons in order to achieve a world free of biological weapons.
With government through the Ministry of Defense expediting domestic efforts to implement the convention, partners have expressed appreciation for the show of political will to implement a treaty described as a major step towards eradicating the use of biological weapons. James Pettit, legal officer with the United Nations Office for Disarmaments, and Nick Brewington, regional security officer at the U.S. Embassy Banjul office, expressed support for the Gambia's national BWC implementation efforts, and they echoed Interior Minister's call for close stakeholder collaboration, adding that the impact of biological weapons poses a serious threat to our existence.
The BWC extends, however, beyond disarmament and non-proliferation, and also aims at guaranteeing that biological agents and toxins are used only for peaceful purposes. This contributes to strengthening states' scientific and technological capacities and supports preparedness and risk reduction and management, in turn contributing towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals.
The United States attaches great importance to achieving the full and effective implementation of the Convention. The strength of any multilateral agreement will be dependent on the way each of its members fulfill the legally binding obligations accepted with the accession. The rapid spread of infectious diseases globally over the last 3 years has demonstrated to the entire world the potentially devastating effects of biological threats.
The Biological Weapons Treaty prohibits the development, stockpile, production or transfer of biological agents and toxins of types and quantities that have no justification for protective or peaceful use. And to ensure that their use is totally eradicated, countries, especially UN member states that ratified the convention, are urged to domesticate its implementation. And the Gambia is one of several countries in Africa making efforts to fully implement the treaty. Answane Sonyase for KTV News.
That will take us to a commercial break, and when we return, we still have some more local and international news stories. Do stay tuned.
saaro bii kombo bii ak tropics bii moo ñëw ci réew mi di maalo moo xam ne moo ñëw ci Gambie fi toll nii.
te amul benn tànn.
benn tànn.
mu li ko fi
borom réew mi. président Barrow. dem ca GGC ñu ànd ak nguuri Gambie ci ndimbalu président Barrow ñu indi fi maalo ma xalla dafa cher dafa.
waaye ñu bëgg a dee.
mu ne xaar leen ma indi leen ak maalo bu gën a yomb.
am na kooku
boo dem ca GGC ci réew mi yëpp boo demee di fa am maalo wax lii di nga dem ca baar nga dem Farafeñ nga dem Sooma nga dem Bansan nga dem Basse ak bépp boutique nag foo xam ne bii rek dafay jaay ci réew Gambie fii am na foo dem rek am na. wholesale 50 kilos bi 1450 laa la wax. te jëji si sa saaro. moom lañ koy jaayee. dana maalo mi amul tànn maalo mi sakkan na maalo mi neex na maalo mi saf na gis nga la waykat ba doon wax naan suñu maalo mi bu ñoree neex bu ne maalo neexul danga amul fii xaaral dama yekk nga seet. réewi Gambie ma waxati te xam ngeen saa yu ma waxee rek noonu la maalo bi ñëw na de ñetti bokkul façon yii fii lañ ko indi jéegi see ko fi indi ànd ak nguuri Gambie ak ci ndimbali kan président Barrow ñu li ñu maalo mii sakkan na neex na yomb na 1450 rek nga am saako fi ka sakkan ci njaboot réewi Gambie jóg leen de Gambie topp réew mi jóg leen maalo bi ñëw na.
In today's fast-paced digital world, staying ahead of the competition requires the latest technologies and skills. That's where QIT comes in. Our programs include Certificate in IT, Diploma and Advanced Diploma in Microsoft Office Applications, Cisco A+, Graphics Design, Database Administration, Systems Administration, HRM, Business Management, and Marketing. We have a range of internationally certified online courses. Our special weekend classes provide the flexibility you need as a working professional. We offer specialized IT training to corporate institutions at our state-of-the-art conference room or at a location of your choice. Our affordable facilities are also available for rental with free and fast internet. Call us at 3100918 or 3800918 to start your journey today. QIT, turning your potential into credentials.
Welcome back and thank you very much for joining us. This is QTV News. At the Monetary Policy's quarterly meeting, the Governor of the Central Bank reported accelerated inflation beyond a tolerable level in the Gambia. This period has seen a rise in the price of goods and services. Meanwhile, the Central Bank has taken monetary policy measures to manage and bring down inflation to a medium-term target. Mohamed Lamin Choi tells us more.
The Central Bank of the Gambia convened for its quarterly Monetary Policy Committee meeting from Monday to Tuesday. The MPC's main goal is to tackle inflation in the Gambia's economy. In the process, both global and domestic conditions are considered. At the end of the meeting, Bua Sedi, the governor of the Central Bank, updates the press.
Global inflation continues to moderate, partly reflecting the aggressive interest rate hikes by central banks, but this pace of disinflation is slow. The easing of the general price level also reflects the improvement in the global supply chain that resulted in lower global energy and food prices.
The Monetary Policy Committee's deliberations observes signs of improving global economic conditions with prospects of declining inflation and the recovery of Gambia's economy.
Food inflation increased to 24.9% in June 2023 from 23.5% in June 2022. Bread and cereals, fish, fruits, vegetables, and imported food subcategories were among the key drivers of the uptick in food inflation.
Increasing inflation compels the MPC to take measures to manage and address the problem. In the second quarter of this year, inflation has risen to a level the central bank deems intolerable and unfavorable.
Domestic price pressures continue to be a critical concern. The headline inflation rate of 18.4% in July 2023 surpasses our tolerable level, and the outlook is unfavorable.
Rising inflation puts a greater financial burden on consumers. Optimistically, the Monetary Policy Committee has expressed steadfastness and commitment to navigate the challenges to cut down inflation in our economy.
The monetary policy rate, MPR, we have decided to increase the MPR by 1 percentage point to 17.0%. The required reserves of deposit money banks will remain unchanged at 13.0%. On the standing deposit facility, the decision of the committee is that the interest rate on this facility will remain unchanged at 3.0%, providing an avenue for banks to park excess reserves. Standing lending facility, it is the decision of the MPC that the rate on this facility will increase to 18.0%, aligning with the adjustment in the MPR.
After its quarterly meeting, the Monetary Policy Committee will monitor the effects of its policy decision on inflation to determine its next policy direction at its next meeting on the 29th of November 2023. Mohamed Lamin Chahek, QTV News.
Vendors at the Serekunda market have spoken about the difficulties they encounter during the rainy season. QTV's Loli M. Camera visited them, and this is our report.
During this visit, the market looks cleaner than previous times when it rained. The people here complained about the lack of proper drainage system in the market to contain the rainwater. Jaina Basoli came to the market to do shopping. She lamented the state of the market.
I came to do shopping. When it rains, I don't want to come here because it looks dirty. This is the place we get our food and other things, so it should always be clean. But it's the opposite of that. So I am appealing to the authorities to help us.
Seina Busedi is one of the vendors who sells vegetables, including cassava and pepper. She says she has been selling for more than 10 years and the benefits are great.
I thank God because since I started this business, I have been able to live independently without having to ask anybody for anything. Though I do not own a car yet, but I am at an advanced stage of buying a piece of land from my business money.
Despite her successes, Madam Sedi also registered some challenges.
This pepper I'm selling is from Senegal, and the price is different every week. And when that happens, it affects the buyers because that means the price will go up. Also, when it rains, we suffer a lot because the whole place floods and does not look good. But what can we do? We have to sit inside the water and sell. Even the buyers I know don't have much choice but to buy. I know the government and KMC are really trying to fix things for us here, but the process seems to be slow.
Fatou Bayo is also a vendor who has been selling catfish for over 2 decades, and she recalls her business was flourishing.
Business. At first, these were cheap because we used to buy a basket for $3,000 to $4,000, but that is in the past. Now a basket costs up to $7,000, and that is because most fishermen are foreigners. I am of the belief that if Gambians venture into fishing, fish will be cheaper. During this period, we don't sell much. Sometimes we come to the market, and when it is raining, we park and go home. And if this type of fish is not preserved properly, it gets spoiled, and that is a big loss for us. A market should look clean and attractive. Then one feels comfortable to sell and to buy. But when it rains and everywhere is inundated, that is not healthy.
Markets are an important part of the economy. They are places where people go to buy their goods and others to sell and make a living. So, vendors and buyers believe having a clean market can help protect our health and our goods. For QTV News, Loli M. Kamara.
Now to news beyond our borders. Following a ban on headscarves in French public schools, the country will also ban the wearing of a abaya robe worn by Muslim girls in state-run schools. The country's education minister has said ahead of the schools reopening next month. More in this report.
The newly appointed French Education and Youth Minister Gabriel Attal made the announcement during an interview with TV channel TF1 on Sunday. The Education Minister argued that, and I quote, "When you walk into a classroom, you shouldn't be able to identify the religion of the students just by looking at them," unquote. This move comes after months of debate over the wearing of abayas in French schools. In 2004, a French law banned the wearing of signs or outfits which appear to show religious affiliations in schools. This applied to large crosses, Jewish kippahs, and the hijab. And in 2010, France also passed a ban on full-face veils in public. This angered some of its 5 million strong Muslim community. In 2019, French President Emmanuel Macron warned against stigmatizing Muslims or linking the religion with the fight against terrorism. It came as a French woman said she was taking legal action against far-right politicians who criticized her for wearing an Islamic headscarf in public. Since the announcement of the ban on abaya, a cross-section of French society objects to the decision, saying it violates the rights of Muslims. Abdallah Zakri, vice president of the French Council for Muslim Worship, said the abaya has never been a religious symbol anywhere. Clémentine Outan, an MP for the hard-left France Insoumise party, criticized what she called the clothes police and a move characteristic of an obsessional rejection of Muslims. For many Muslims in France, this latest ban is another sign that the country's much talked about liberté or freedom doesn't extend to them. For QTV News, I am Julde Ndiaye.
Step into the Espas Motors showroom for your luxurious name brand vehicle. Located along the Bertil Harding Highway, Espas Motors is the Gambia's authorized dealer for Chery, Kia, Ford, and now we bring you the new Peugeot model 3008 SUV. 18-inch alloy wheels, 216 inches high ground clearance, keyless entry system, start and stop button, rear parking assistance system, reverse camera, adaptive cruise control.
Well, apologize for that short H there, and we'll continue with the news. Now we bring you the recap of our main news headlines. Following the death last week of a 9-year-old girl due to suspected electrocution, the National Water and Electricity Company NAWEC have urged the public to report any abnormality or fault they observed with their electricity wires and poles. At a media briefing on Tuesday, the UNFPA and partners have revealed that there were 310 reported cases of gender-based violence in the Gambia from January to July 2023. The Minister of Interior, Siaka Sonko, has called on stakeholders to strengthen collaboration to ensure the successful implementation of the Biological Weapons Convention. At the Monetary Policies Committee's quarterly meeting, the Governor of the Central Bank reported accelerating inflation beyond a tolerable level in the Gambia. And in international news, following a ban on headscarf in France public schools, the country will also ban children from wearing the abaya robe worn by some Muslim women in state-run schools. That's all in this edition of the news. Thank you very much for watching. Join us again at 10 for another bulletin.